This book, The Monk Without a Robe, is dedicated to all those philosophers and spiritual people whose philosophy and spiritual aura had an influence over my transformation. Preface. From about 17 years, I have been quite interested and involved in studying various spiritual, religious scriptures and philosophical books that I felt helpful for exploring myself. I was in search of something that I am not articulate enough to explain. Gradually, a philosophical understanding developed in me which had an immense contribution to lead me on a way to transformation. With this thought in my mind, I wrote this book based upon what I have lived and trying to live, so that it may aid the transformation of all others who will read it. The process of transformation will begin by minor lifestyle changes. On a path of transformation, vices like stress, anger, fear, greed, jealousy, hatred, lust, etc. are gradually overcome. I hope after reading it, the readers may develop more interest in philosophy and get attuned to spirituality. This book has been divided into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 is Spirituality and Simplicity. Chapter 2 is Spirituality and Personality. Chapter 3 is Wisdom Simplified for Introspection. Chapter 4 is Lifestyle. Readers are requested to share their reviews on what sort of change they felt in their life after reading this book. Acknowledgements. This book is a result of inspiration that I got from studying the philosophy of various philosophers, which include Nundarishi, Maulana Rumi, Epictetus, Socrates, Zeno, Swami Vivekananda, Sir Muhammad Iqbal, Dalai Lama, Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore, and Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam. I am highly indebted to the authors whose books I have read during all these years. I also owe my gratitude to all those spiritual orators whose videos had rekindled my spirit. Above all, I pay my obeisance to the holy religious scriptures which I have read for my transformation. Spirituality and Simplicity. Spirituality, for an enormous number of people, seems to be somewhat complex, but actually it is very simple, just needs a serious attention in order to understand its simplicity. It appears to be complex because materialism had changed our lifestyle to such an extent that in a way it had changed our life. The change arising out of materialism is not always good. Spirituality enables us to understand it in a proper way. Just take some time and talk to some elderly people to know how their lifestyle had changed since their childhood. Just give a thought on how we are using our time and how important is what all we are doing in that time. Think what you are eating, how much you are eating, and how it is processed that you are eating. Give a thought to your sexual practices and see how perverted it had become. Try to understand how much you own: buildings, cars, gold, money, etc. How much you need and how much more you actually want to have. Taking your attention to these very simple aspects of life may trigger in you a need to understand simplicity, by which I mean spirituality. Now, let me take you to spirituality through philosophy. Philosophy, as I understand, is a study aimed to develop an understanding through which one could differentiate between right and wrong, virtue and vice. With this understanding, a person will mold his behavior in such a manner so as to cultivate the habit of doing right and avoiding wrong, prefer virtue over vice. Through philosophy, we can develop reason. Reason is the precious quality in a man, and it is the capability of making sense of things. Philosophy is for everybody, and nobility can be achieved through the study of philosophy. Great philosophers like Socrates, etc., belonged to such families which were neither aristocratic nor rulers, but as ordinary as millions of families of that time. But what made them extraordinary is the wisdom which they developed through their reason. It is through their reason that their actions and deeds were noble. In reality, the value of a man is determined by his deeds, his behavior, his actions, not from his ancestors. So our focus should be to become great by mending our behavior rather than merely wishing to be like somebody who influences us. True nobility comes when you make yourself fit for virtue and unfit for vice. Noble people dislike asking for favors but like to offer help. Philosophy has the potential to awake us to this ultimate reality. So concentrate on philosophy and you will see yourself becoming wiser to differentiate between reality and illusions. It will take you closer to spirituality. Spirituality is the religion of religions. It takes a person to such a height where he can realize that there is a single source which is the ultimate, and various religions just give that source various names. Spirituality will tie the bond among people irrespective of their religious affiliations, because we originate from a common source. Spirituality will make us feel more concerned to each other, irrespective of nationality, race, culture, profession, etc. We all breathe the same air, drink the same water, take food, rice, wheat, pulses, etc., coming out from the same soil. Then why so much differentiation in the name of pseudo-identities? Spirituality makes us conscious of our soul, which is enough to trigger our motivation for the nourishment of the soul. When our attention shifts from our body to soul, gradually bodily exaggerations like greed, lust, hatred, jealousy, etc. start declining. According to scientists, our universe consists of an infinite number of stars, among which Sun is one. There are 9 planets, and Earth is one of them, and the size of the Sun is said to be much larger than that of the Earth. About 75% of Earth is underwater in the form of oceans, seas, lakes, rivers, and other water bodies. It is the rest 25% of the Earth which is the land on which we live. On that land there are numerous big mountains, a huge number of large forests, vast deserts, beautiful meadows, etc., accommodating millions of species of animals and plants. Among these species, we human beings are also one. Our existence in the entire universe, though a minuscule, but even then, due to lack of awareness, some of us, out of ignorance and arrogance, live with such a feeling as if they are the creators of this entire creation. Their false illusion makes them feel so powerful, while as in reality their existence in the universe is almost negligible. May it be the rulers of the most powerful countries of the world. History is the witness where we have seen those in power powerless when natural calamities took lakhs of lives in the form of tsunamis, earthquakes, floods, epidemics, etc. We have a recent example of coronavirus when almost the entire world was so scared that even people did not dare to come out of their homes for months. We also have a number of examples of such pseudo-powerful persons becoming powerless when they get inflicted with life-taking diseases and struggling for basic inhalation for their survival. These facts are enough for anyone to understand the reality so as to attain a sense of spirituality. Spirituality means our relation with the Creator. The more spiritual we are, the better the relationship develops. Through spirituality, we enable our individual mind to touch the universal mind, and once that happens, we are in a state of absolute bliss. Chapter 2: Spirituality and Personality. Spirituality can be very useful for our personality development. Our personality comprises of two components. One is the spiritual component, soul, and the other is the physical component, body. To develop our personality, mostly the focus remains on the physical component, that is the body, while the spiritual component, that is the soul, is generally ignored. On the contrary, it is the spiritual component that needs much more focus because of its importance. Let me give an example to prove its significance. Suppose there is a person whose name is Paul, and he is a rich person owning a big business. One fine day he reaches his office and takes his seat. After some time, his office boy enters his cabin to serve him a cup of coffee, but there was no response. To seek his attention, the office boy says, "Sir, coffee," but still no response. He utters the same words a bit louder, but still no response. So he comes out of the chamber and informs the employees sitting in the adjacent cabin. Once they went inside and tried to get his attention, but could not. So they called the doctor, who on arrival checked his pulse and declared him dead. Now, This owner of the business house is no more pointed as Paul, but Paul's body. Here the question arises, if it is Paul's body on the chair, then where is Paul? Although the body is still on the same chair in the same cabin, putting on the same suit, having the same hairstyle, even giving the same perfume that he had used that day, wearing the same shoes. If all is same, then what had happened that even we can't say that it is Paul, but Paul's body? Despite being the owner of the business, being the employer of thousands of employees working in his organization, his body is not tolerated anymore in the chamber and taken out, which later is cremated as per the religious affiliation he had. If he is a Hindu, it will be burnt to ashes. If a Christian or Muslim, it will be buried under the earth. Some leave the dead bodies at some designated places for food for vultures, and some donate the bodies to hospitals for medical students who perform dissection and other practicals on it. What I mean to say is that there was something by virtue of which this body had value, and that something was the soul. It is that soul which is our spiritual component and which is much more valuable than our body. So in order to develop our personality, we need to be soul conscious. And once we become conscious of our soul, then we can't afford to commit any sin. Then we can't speak a lie. We can't cheat anybody. We can't harm anybody. A soul conscious person will develop in himself the qualities like compassion, honesty, humility, etc. One of the most important aspects of our life is to understand our own self. Even as a user, in order to make the best use of anything, the first thing we do is to try to understand its user manual. It is only after we understand its functions that we are able to make the best use of it. If we remain ignorant about it, we are liable to either misuse it or don't make any use of it. There is an utmost need to understand the answer of the basic question, who am I? Just think about a person living in a forest who in no way is aware about the mobile technology. If a smartphone is given to such a person, what will he do with the device? He may never bother to switch it on because he is totally unaware about what it is. So rather than using the device, he may misuse it, because the use of the device was to make a call, to make a transaction, to acquire information, to take and watch pictures and videos, etc. But that person out of ignorance may misuse it by using it as a lid, a paperweight, a mirror, etc. Once the tribal gets aware about the device, he will start making use of it. Initially, he may feel fascinated when he will learn how to switch on the device. Later, he will feel nice to watch pictures or videos on the device. He will be glad to listen to music on the device. Gradually, his interest to know more about the device will grow. The more he will explore the device, the better use he may make out of it, and the more curious he may become to explore it further. Even if we purchase a new gadget which we are not familiar with, we look at its information manual to enable ourselves to make a proper use of it. The same happens with us. Unless we know about ourselves, we may never make a proper use of ourselves. We will make a proper use of ourselves only when we know ourselves. That is when we are soul conscious rather than body conscious. The more aware we become, the better use we make of ourselves and the more we get transformed. With increase in awareness, we excel spiritually. Let me explain it by another way. Take an example of a room without any natural ventilation installed with a sophisticated air conditioner equipped with a user-friendly remote. If a person who is absolutely unaware of the AC technology is allotted that room to sleep during a hot summer night, he will complain about the discomfort because of his lack of awareness. Had he been aware of the AC technology, he would have switched on the air conditioner and thereby made use of the machine already installed in the room and had a comfortable experience. But it was due to his lack of awareness that he could not make use of it. Similarly, a human being spends all his life in discomfort, complaining about one thing and the other only because of his lack of awareness about his own self. Once he becomes aware, then he starts making use of himself. It is as a result of self-awareness that we come to know about what we need. With that knowledge, we shun that all what we don't need. This makes a big difference in our life because by renouncing that what we really don't need, we are keeping far away from us all the pains and miseries associated with fulfilling those unnecessary needs. Now, just to have a deeper introspection and think about your need for food. What type of food you need, how much you need. After focusing on it, you may realize that majority of the foods that are taken are hazardous instead of useful for health. The reason being both the quantity and quality. Mostly people consume food much more than their body actually requires. Even the urge to eat more is created by enhancing the flavors of the foods through unnatural processes, which makes it hazardous. There is no need to interfere with nature. Nature takes care of its process in a cordial manner. The malfunctioning arises because of the wrong ways that people mostly adhere to. People get tempted and eat so much of stuff like sweets, chocolates, excess quantities of food, carbonated drinks, etc., and then keep on monitoring their blood pressure, blood glucose, cholesterol, lipid profile, triglycerides, etc. When they eat against the law of nature, there is a high probability that there may be a deviation which they later try to correct through medication. The medication they use to treat one type of disorder gives rise to another type of disorder due to its side effect. How complicated people make this simple phenomena of nature by their interference. Sometimes they concentrate on blood thickening and use anticoagulants to keep it thin. At times they focus on oxygen saturation and then go for unnatural oxygen infusion. This complexity arises because of the lifestyle people are adhering to, where they are becoming habitual of taking such foods and beverages that destroys their health. Even they never bother about trying to know how much quantity of food is adequate for them so as to minimize excess intake of food. When a person does good deeds and think pure thoughts, then his purity can be felt while being in the company of that person. Even if somebody is in stress, by just sitting around that person, he may feel peace. Such is the aura of his holiness and purity that people in a state of mental unrest may find themselves relaxed and calm in the presence of such a person. He develops such an aura that people get attracted to him. His energy level remains high and his dependence on food decreases. He can remain energetic and active even on a very little food. As his God realization increases, then his worldly requirements keep on decreasing. He may reach to a stage where he even not requires food, because by that time he can acquire the ability to derive his energy requirements from sun, air and water. Then his wisdom makes him aware of such phenomena which otherwise may be beyond the comprehension of an ordinary human being. As plants and trees have the capability to produce juicy and fleshy fruits using sunlight, water, soil, etc., scientists on studying this process give it a name like photosynthesis. Saints and sages have a mastery over this technique, more or less like a tree can derive its energy. Saints who acquire such level have the capability of making use of such processes which science may take time to explore. Scientists operate in a sequential mode where they are able to understand and experiment the process in a systematic manner. But in spirituality, this complex scientific process becomes very simple. For example, it took thousands of years for scientists to develop CCTV technology, where a person is able to see what anyone is doing at any particular place. Saints have been using this long back, where they had the capability to see beyond the reach of a normal human eye. Spirituality accesses the pool of knowledge through their level of God awareness, while as scientists access that through a systematic body of knowledge and experimentation over the passage of time. Scientists discover these phenomena through a steady process and can make use of it through a complex physical infrastructure, while as scientists can discover it according to their level of awareness and soul consciousness, and can make use of it without any such physical infrastructure. Scientifically, a message can be communicated across a continent by making use of telephone technology through a well-defined process, whereas spirituality, the same can be done through creation of a thought. Purity of thought leads to concentration that develops such a thought power by virtue of which such things can be done, which will either appear as miracles to an ordinary person or may appear to be unbelievable. Chapter 3: Wisdom Simplified for Introspection. As in a dark room, in the absence of light, we may perceive anything dangerous, worth to fear, but if the room gets illuminated, things become clear to us, and thereby our fear vanishes. Similarly, in our lives, knowledge makes us wise and thereby brings clarity of right and wrong by changing our perception. For a wise person, each day comes with an opportunity to live life in a better way. As far as reality is concerned, it is quite different, but perceptions create illusions. Perception can be how you see yourself, it can be how others see you, and reality reflects the truth, that is how you actually are. Our perception towards things changes with time. When we were children, some ordinary pebbles, sand, toys had a very high value for us. We could have done any struggle to get those things. Later we grew older and those things which were of very high value for us earlier attracted us no more. Similarly, our awareness changes our perception toward fear, lust, desire, greed, anger, jealousy, hatred, etc. Lack of wisdom means a disease where reason is lost and perception is illusionary. That which is of no significance seems to be highly significant. In this state, people crave for that which is not only useless but also harmful. Whenever in life you face a hard situation that causes stress in you, just think about something harder and comparing the two may mitigate the level of stress in you. For example, if anyone loses a job, think if you or your family member had met with a fatal accident. Similarly, if you are in pain due to some disease, imagine instead of that disease if there was any life-taking disease like cancer, etc. This comparison will ensure the perception of your existing problem negligible. Sometimes in our life, we are left with two choices where we have to do anything or not to do anything. We are free to choose our action on the basis of our interest or desire. If we like to do it, we choose to do it, and if we dislike doing it, we choose not to do it. For example, attend a party, to go to picnic, to eat a feast, etc. Sometimes we don't have a choice, but we are bound to do anything. Where that is the case, it is better to cultivate an interest and desire to do it rather than doing it with lack of interest and enthusiasm. The former will make it exciting for you and eliminate the element of slavery in it. This change in perception will create miracles even in the same situation. If we have positive thoughts, we can enjoy what other people perceive as punishments. A person can feel depressed while living in a palace, and another person can enjoy life even in a prison. If you are trying to show your happiness by doing such actions, you can to a considerable extent alter your mood, because it is rather impossible to remain depressed while you are revealing the signs of happiness. For the sake of our own happiness, we should cultivate the feelings of love even for our enemies. Even if we can't generate love for them, at least try to forgive and forget them. It is the habit of worry that troubles a person, otherwise there is nothing in the world which can happen to a person that he could not bear. But due to worry, he develops in him such an attitude that paralyzes him physically as well as mentally. Even if there is any person who is not able to sleep, will be all right even without sleep, provided he will not worry about his sleep. It is the concern that he had developed about his lack of sleep which creates the problem rather than the lack of sleep. Once he will shift his attention and will embrace lack of sleep with a positive attitude, then lack of sleep will no more trouble him at all. We inflict pain to ourselves by what it is perceived to derive pleasure. Through overeating of various delicacies, we subject ourselves to stomach unrest, vomiting, diarrhea, etc. By excessive sex, we lose our luster, grow weak, etc. By spending lavishly on luxuries, we invite trouble in the form of animosity, jealousy, and envy. A person on thinking pure thoughts and doing holy deeds attains so much of purity that his purity becomes visible from his aura. Thoughts can create peace or stress depending upon their quality. Even if we are happy, but the thought about fear of something happening wrong in future takes that happiness away from us at the same moment. Fear is simply a false perception which exhausts us by consuming our entire energy. We can combat fear by doing that what we fear. What we won't be able to do, at least we can do it through imagination. If we become really aware about ourselves, then we will always remain self sufficient. We will be always well aware of the fact that we have come empty handed and shall return empty handed. For us, birth and death will be a natural process which we are subjected to, and despite of these processes, we are and will remain. With such awareness, no loss in terms of home, wealth, cars, job, death of any near one, etc., can disturb us, because we know all that what we had acquired belonged to someone else before and will belong to someone else after. To overcome fear, we have to be soul conscious so as to make us realize that ultimately it is our body which can be injured, tortured, inflicted with pain and suffering, but not we, that is, our soul is free. Even the fear of our own death will carry no meaning for us. We will be free, living a life of real freedom. Then for us reason and virtue will be dear, and there can't be any compromise for truth. It will be much easier to sacrifice our life or wealth in order to safeguard virtue. Although everyone knows that we have to die, but still there is a feeling of living forever. This type of thinking keeps us attached to the worldly things till our last breath. One who remains attached to worldly things will not get enlightened spiritually. For a permanent happiness, you have to free yourself from the fear of death, and that you can do only when you realize the real phenomena of death. We are living in a state of illusion. Just concentrate on your own life. You will measure it in terms of the years you have lived, and you count the years from your date of birth. Now assume you have no idea of your birthday or there is no mechanism of recording it. How come it matters then how many years you lived in the absence of a proper record? Why to fear death when before death we were already in that phase? Can we recall any such pain of that phase? If not, then why fear? It is only the reluctance to die that makes it painful. Just to remove the unwillingness and our death will be peaceful. How much difference will it make if a person lived for a long or a short time? It is only in his mind that these years will make any difference. In reality, his years of life will not make any difference to this universal existence of lakhs of years. So to ask God for longer lives every now and then as such makes no sense, because after all, how long we can ask for? We are passing these years of life in slavery and misery because we have become slave to our lives, jobs, bosses, etc. Although freedom is so near, but due to multiple fears, we never cherish the bliss of real freedom in our life. We could not cherish life due to the fear of losing a job, missing a promotion or a financial incentive, or due to an unnecessary fear of death. With awareness, we will no more fear diseases which otherwise keep us haunting even in the state of good health. What we require the most, without which we can't survive at all, that is air and water. Nature provides us that free. What other things are very essential for our survival, like rice, dal? Nature keeps it available in abundance, which can be acquired by almost everyone to fulfill their need. But it is the desire which people have for that, what actually is not their need, that makes them to crave. The wise man focuses upon his need rather than his greed. Now that all which we had acquired in addition to our needs, if lost, makes us so sad. Although it was already more than what we required, and its loss will not have that much of effect on our being. Rather, what makes us sad is not the actual loss, but a notion of loss. Then we have to understand our real requirements. Our real requirements are very limited, and nature has provided us with that resources to fulfill our need. So with this realization, our fear of poverty will vanish. Sometimes for the sake of comparison, compare some rich person whom you know with some poor person whom you know. Then analyze their state of happiness and contentment. You may find the level of stress more among the rich, and you may also find the poor more content with their lot as compared to the rich, who will be thirsty for acquiring more. Natural needs are limited and can be satisfied by small amounts. It is not our natural hunger, but our artificial greed that costs us dear. To live a simple life means voluntary poverty, while as for a luxurious person it means a penalty. To measure richness with wealth is a folly. Richness should be measured by how one makes use of his wealth. A really comfortable and a peaceful life lies in a simple living. How come is wealth of any value? Try it by laying a person who is in pain on a bed made of diamond and gold, in a cozy bedding in a well-decorated room of a palatial house. This all will not make the person rest in peace, because he is still crying with pain. Contrary to it, lay a person in a good state of health on an earthen floor with a ragged blanket to cover him up in a dilapidated house. He can still rest in peace. Sometimes a person out of his mental unrest tries to leave his place of domicile and starts traveling. He travels to many cities, but depression still keeps on haunting him. He had carried all the mental burden along with his other luggage, so it does not let him to live in peace, although the real situation he had left thousands of kilometers away. But his mental burden takes him back to that place through imagination. To carry the burden of those thoughts which are related to past is so foolish, because to think about something which has already happened is nothing but wastage of precious energy that is consumed while creating such thoughts. The same happens while creating repetitive thoughts about future as well. The irony is that many people desire and dream of some things which they don't have, but fail to enjoy and appreciate those things which they have. We all may have certain things in our life that we like, which make us happy, and also we may have those things that we don't like, which make us unhappy. We should cultivate the habit of remaining thankful to God for all that we have which keeps us happy, rather than repeatedly cursing or complaining for all that makes us unhappy or sad. If we remain in a state of gratitude, we will always be content and satisfied with our lot. This contentment will give us an everlasting happiness and peace. We always have something in our life to be grateful for. Just identify those and express your gratitude on daily basis. We have to be careful about our desires and aversions. If we desire something but are unable to get it, we get frustrated. And if we want to avoid anything but get it, we again are in stress. It is true that we cannot control the situations, for example, a traffic jam, angry mood of our boss or spouse, disrespect from a colleague, etc. But we can control our attitude to such instances by which it can have a least effect on our sense of well-being. Awareness means to come to know about what we were not aware, like a diamond that we thought a stone, but later we realize it a diamond. After realization, useful and useless becomes clear. Enemy can cease to be an enemy anymore. We may develop so much compassion that if we will get a slap, instead of concentrating on the effect of the slap on us, we will concentrate on the pain the hand might have which has slapped us. When we have love and compassion, it creates such an aura that people may get attracted to us. With God awareness, we achieve a state of permanent happiness. With that happiness, we no more require to escape from everyday life, to derive pleasure or make use of painkillers to alleviate pain. The first sign of transformation is to realize one's sin. It is only when we feel guilty on our wrong act that we may want to reform. Otherwise, there are people who brag about their sins. When a person commits a sin, he feels guilty. But when he keeps on committing sins, then he is not only attracted but by committing such sins, but even pleased by them. Now for him the same which at the initial stage where vices have become habits. Living life means to make a proper use of it, and the person who does not do that is dead before his death. It hardly makes a difference whether he is in a home or a tomb, although his name can be inscribed on a nameplate at both places. We are eternally peaceful, but it is the mere misuse of our mind that creates stress in us, because we are looking externally for that which is internally already with us. The more we renounce external sensible pleasures, the happier we are. This is proved by witnessing the sages who have renounced all, but are the most blissful people on earth. To experience ultimate wisdom, we have to give up sensible pleasures, because a pure mind, free of any desire, achieves bliss. In this state of bliss, we can discover the science of getting the infinite energy, which otherwise is at the disposal of everybody, but a sensible person knows not the art of tapping it. When a fisherman wants to catch a fish, to trap it, he puts something in the hook which the fish gets attracted to. On attempting to eat it, the fish gets trapped in the hook. Similarly, a man is after lust, and to fulfill the sensible pleasure, he does something same and gets trapped. It is easy to qualify any competitive exam like IIT, IAS, but very hard to escape from the sensible trap. We can't enjoy blissful lives so long we are indulged in sensible pleasures. To escape from the sensible trap, you have to put a lot of effort. Saints and sages have succeeded after a hard practice and patience, and then they don't have any lustful thought, and are in a state of bliss. Lust, anger, and greed deprive us from the real wisdom. Pleasures arising out of their fulfillment never give us the real contentment, but a momentary satisfaction which is soon overcome by further cravings and unrest. So let us be wise to attain peace through wisdom rather than trying in vain to attain it from such sources which are but a mirage. Chapter 4, Lifestyle. Getting connected with our own self to harness our inner potential, we have to sharply focus on discipline, which involves performing daily activities in an organized and scheduled manner. Effective breathing, study of good literature and holy company, meditation. We should cultivate a discipline in our life. Through discipline, we can develop a willpower that will enable us to do what we ought to do the way it is to be done. For example, waking up at an appropriate time, doing a physical exercise, taking proper food at proper time, devote an optimum time to your set activities, etc. You can choose your own set of exercises. Neck rotation, swinging of arms and legs, forward bending, backward bending, jogging, etc. Convenient for you, ensuring every part of your body is involved. Even as little as 5 minutes of daily exercise can be very helpful for your body. One need to inculcate a habit of thinking positive and instantly remove any bad thought the moment it strikes the mind. This way we can develop such a self-discipline by virtue of which our willpower will be enhanced significantly. This can be practiced the way we sit, the way we talk, the way we eat, etc. To maintain a proper posture of the body is significant because the way we can still our body, the way we can still our mind. This may be the logic behind nimas, asanas, etc. In a state of lust, anger, drunkenness, a person acts in a state of partial or absolute madness. So self-discipline is a virtue that needs to be cultivated to keep such acts at bay. Breathing is a vital activity for our survival. If we stop breathing, we will die, and if we will breathe effectively, we can live a healthy life. Effective breathing recharges the cells of our body and gives a new lease to our lives. So cultivate a habit of going out somewhere in the morning, lakeside, riverside, mountainside, etc., where there is abundance of fresh air. Face the rising sun and have very deep inhalations and exhalations for some time. This will infuse a lot of energy in you. The nature is at its best at that time. It is the time even when some flowers bloom with the sun. So take advantage of the rising sun and try to tap its energy. Reading books by great philosophers develops our thinking accordingly. We are able to understand spiritual phenomena which otherwise might appear very complex in the absence of that literature. By involving yourself in reading such books with full concentration, it may be like being physically in their company. Moreover, holy company is very much useful for spiritual development. When you associate with good people who have nobility in their thoughts and actions, you also get influenced by them. Meditation means an attempt to control our thoughts. This is achieved initially by trying to be aware of what we are thinking. Awareness slows down our thoughts, With that, we are able to think that what we want to think. So, more control we get over our process of thinking, the more we prefer to have useful thoughts and avoid useless thoughts. This conserves in us a lot of energy that otherwise gets dissipated with useless thoughts. Later, we can develop so much control over our process of thinking that we can take ourselves into a thoughtless state. That is a state where we are not creating any thought. Once that state is achieved, our mind becomes calm and serene. We become so relaxed that even the best quality of sleep can't make. It is that state of mind when our slate of mind becomes so clean that it is ready to receive divine intuitions. To learn meditation, we can make use of various techniques. Even we can use chanting to still our mind. We may chant any word of God repeatedly till other perturbing thoughts get wiped off from our mind. We can feel good or bad. Naturally, we will prefer to feel good, and to feel good, we have to think good thoughts. It is our thoughts which create our feelings, and it is these feelings which are either good or bad. So, to have good feelings, we should create good thoughts that are thoughts of thankfulness, love, purity, good wishes for our friends as well as enemies. At any cost, we should avoid creation of any bad thought like jealousy, hatred, impurity, lust, anger, etc. If we have any bad thought, it will immediately change our feelings and we will feel bad. We should give ourselves a positive self-talk several times every day, like thanks and praises to God who fulfills my requirements and keeps me happy. Our every moment should be happy. We should not postpone our happiness to a particular time. We should not keep a condition for our happiness. For example, if I will have a luxury car, then I will be happy. If I will get a good job, then I will be happy. If I will be married to a particular girl, then I will be happy, etc. Every day we must do something to serve somebody in some way. It could be as big as to engage oneself in the service of humanity for months, or as small as letting a passerby cross the road by stopping your car. Repeatedly keep on doing good in the form of reading good books, saying good words, doing good deeds, keeping good company, etc. This will reform your character because gradually your bad deeds will be dominated and suppressed. Make a list of persons whom you had known but have passed away. You will realize the reality of leaving the physical body. As you start making the list, you will recall hundreds of those people whom you had seen in flesh and blood and have been associated with as relatives, neighbors, colleagues, friends, etc., but had left this world. This will induce in you awareness where you will see death as an inevitable reality and this life as a short journey. With this realization, your attitude toward life will change for good. Our body needs energy for performing our daily activities, be it thinking, walking, talking, working, sex, etc. Here we need to understand which activities are useful and which are useless. This will enable us to avoid dissipating our energy on useless activities. We can conserve our energy by avoiding unnecessary thinking, unnecessary talking, unnecessary eating, unnecessary sex, copulation, etc. Thoughts are useful as well as useless. Majority of the thoughts that we create are useless because either they are repetitive thoughts or such thoughts which are of no use. By avoiding the creation of such thoughts, we can conserve a lot of energy and moreover our focus on useful thoughts will increase. That will make our useful thinking more result oriented and productive. We need to eat food for survival. It supplies us with the energy required to perform our routine activities. But to overeat means an unnecessary wastage of food and also subjecting our body to the unnecessary process of digesting the extra food. Understand the fact that we need not to take food every now and then because it will lead to the deterioration of our health and wastage of resources. Instead, we need to take optimum food which ensures our health and provide us with all the energy that is required for performing of our all useful activities. We are witnessing elite, obese people going for horrible liposuction surgeries in which the extra weight they had put up is reduced through surgical intervention, where surgeons remove the extra fat from their bodies. It is that horror to which we subject ourselves if we exceed our actual needs. The patient profile of such people include celebrities for whose comfort people are seen everywhere at their service, be it opening of doors, pulling of chairs to ensure they sit with absolute comfort, dressing room assistants like holding court, extraordinary traffic management on roads to save their time. But despite of this, the hardships due to constipation, prostrate, and some other gastrointestinal issues they have to helplessly negotiate alone in their washrooms. There the people around who are otherwise ready for their help can't be of any help in mitigating their suffering. Life is an energy, and all activities we perform in our daily life requires energy. We need to understand the mechanism of obtaining and consuming energy. That is what gives energy and what consumes energy. We need to monitor our energy levels at different times to analyze the causes for low and high energy associated with that period of time. The relation can be studied in terms of thoughts, actions, food, time, interactions, etc. This type of habitual analysis will enable us to identify what boosts our energy and what drains our energy. With this, we will cultivate a habit of adopting a set of practices that are conducive for maintaining our appropriate energy level. On the same pattern, we are supposed to monitor our state of health to identify the foods or other practices which can be the possible causes for our illness. There may be some foods with which some people may experience some problems associated with their health. Through this type of observation, they can identify and thereby avoid such foods so as to remain healthy. This will prevent a number of illnesses that may arise due to taking wrong types of food. Moreover, our excess energy is liable to get manifested in the form of lust, aggression, anger, restlessness, while with an optimum level of energy we tend to remain calm and composed. We can't deny the fact that sexual intercourse is a necessary natural action. It is so because it is through this act that we are able to procreate. To use this act for the purpose of procreation is to make a proper use of the act. But to indulge in this act for the sake of lust is simply a misuse of this natural act. If we deeply analyze the act, it is the natural attraction that is in the act which persuades the couple for copulation. Nature had made it attractive only to procreate. Otherwise, if the act would be analyzed in its neutrality, it would have been so disgusting to have sex that people might have been looking for artificial modes for procreating rather than engaging themselves in a sexual intercourse. After marriage, copulation is necessary to produce a baby, As long as that need is fulfilled, a person can engage in this act at the right time of the month. If the act is performed without having the intention of reproduction, it is simply the dissipation of energy, and the loss of this energy is detrimental for our health in the long run. Out of uncontrolled lust, one falls in the trap of sex every now and then. To combat the undue force of lust, one need to be careful by regulating his thought process and ensure a strict dietary control in order to refrain from taking such foods that stimulate lust. Avoid this act if unnecessary after 40, because as you age, the more difficult it will be for your body to restore after the act. As a result, premature aging and various other diseases occur. Even strokes and heart attacks may happen in men because of the loss of energy with excessive sex. Moreover, it should be the utmost concern of every being to make use of the natural process in a natural manner. What we see in practice is how natural processes are exploited in an unnatural way. See how the biological function of reproduction is being exploited in an unnatural manner. The reproductive act, which is meant for procreation, had lost its meaning to something lustful, where the act is being performed for not what it was primarily meant. But even the alternatives are found so as to disable it to achieve the natural result. When people disengage with the natural process in such a manner, they put the natural system to such a damage that is beyond repair and cure. The result is pain, despair, and disharmony. Other aspects that needs our attention is to ask ourselves what we actually need to achieve in this world. Is that achievement really an achievement or just an illusion? We can study the lives of those people who may have already such achievements and talk to them whether they really feel they have achieved anything. Try to analyze these achievements in the light of their perception in order to explore its actual worth. With such thinking, a new dawn may arise in your life that may change your priorities. With a shift in priorities, the meaning of life will change for good, and we will realize the actions we used to give so much importance will be of no such significance.